AskReddit. What's that one story you've always wanted to tell on r/AskReddit, but no one has ever asked the right question? A friend from grad school had previously been a skydiving instructor in Colorado and had jumped more than 600 times. One of these times, he, for some reason, had his wallet in his suit and it fell out. Fell to earth somewhere. He figured this sucks, but oh well. Absolutely no chance of finding it. Separately, a man in rural Colorado was found murdered. Turns out in their remote cabin where he lived with his daughter, he had been sexually abusing her and she finally had enough and killed him. The police searched the house and all of his property and found my friend's wallet in the trunk of his car. Police thought to themselves, fucking idiot murderer left his wallet in this dude's trunk, damn easiest arrest ever. Friend had a super believable alibi of couldn't have been me, officer. Actually that wallet fell out of my pants while I was skydiving. I was once robbed at gunpoint in a public bus. Dude was talking to me like he was my friend while pointing the gun at me. He only asked me for the cash I had in my wallet, and after I gave it to him, he kept talking to me like we were random commuters having a conversation. Dude got more confident and asked for my phone. I said no, not the phone man. I need it. And he was like, fine, it's okay. Don't worry, we chill. 10 out of 10 would be assaulted by him again. My first and worst online date, the drunk and the baby. It's 2008. I'm 18 and I meet a girl on a Cupid. She's older than me, 25, educated and a bit alternative. We agree to meet at a London pub for lunch at 1 in the afternoon, which is quite a journey for me, but I make it anyway. So, she turns up a bit late with a baby in a baby carriage. I had no idea she had a kid before this, but I didn't have a problem with it. She doesn't address that I didn't know about her kid, but says she couldn't find babysitting. Cool. No problem. We both go up and order a drink separately and hang out and chat. We've been there for about 2 hours and she's gone up to the bar a whole bunch of times, mostly coming back with coffees and the occasional Coca-Cola. But then, quite suddenly, she falls forward onto the table and catches herself with her elbows and takes a big sigh and says, "Oh man, I didn't mean to get so drunk." What? I tell her I didn't realize that she's even been drinking, but she tells me that she's been having Irish coffees, rum and cokes as well as shots at the bar. So at this point I start looking for an out, but she's becoming more and more despondent and her 1-year-old is sat in his pram, so I can't leave in good conscience. I start encouraging her to get a taxi home, and she starts to cry, apologizing and saying that I must hate her, but shortly after she closes her eyes and will only respond in mumbles and groans. I try and get her to come around enough to get an address out of her, which I can't, so I take her phone, which wasn't passworded. 2008 non-smartphones. Most people didn't password their phone back then. Find a contact called Mum and call it. I was hoping she could come and pick her up, but it turns out Mum lives in the south of Spain. She isn't one bit happy to hear from me after I explain what happened, but presenting myself as a friend. Nonetheless, she gives me an address to get her to. I ask the bar to call me a taxi, which they do, and one of the bar staff take pity on me and help me get the woman, the baby and the stroller into the cab. I was about to give the driver money for the trip and see them off, but I realized that was a bad idea because who knows what would happen. So I get in the taxi to go take her home holding a baby the entire way, which I've never done in my life at that point. Turns out the driver is a stand-up bloke, and I explain what has happened, and we have a laugh about it. When we get there, he even assembles a pram for me as I take her and place her on her doorstep. I find her keys and get her door open, at which point some guy pops his head round the corner from the kitchen and asks, "Who the fuck are you?" I tell him my name and that I'm a friend and ask who he is. He says he's her fiancé. Oh. He's pretty angry that I've gotten his fiancé with his child drunk in the middle of the day. After getting the pram through the door, he begins to carry her up the stairs, and he says to me, "You stay right there. You and I need to have a little chat." Nope. As soon as he turns the corner at the top of the stairs, I turn and make a run for it, jump back in the taxi, who I asked to take me to the nearest tube station. Afterward I needed some catharsis, so texted some friends who were locals and went out proper. And the kicker? On the train home that night I get a text message from her. "Had a lovely time. Can't wait to see you again." I block her number and never hear from her again. Too long, didn't read. Went on date. Date turns up with child and gets drunk without my knowledge. I drag her back to hers to make sure she's safe, only to find she also has a fiancé who is less than pleased to see me. Okay, so I was never a sporty kid in school. I come from the country parts of Ireland, where everyone has thick accents, drinks Guinness, and most importantly, everyone loves football. Of course, I was an antisocial fuck who never went outside, so I never learned how to play nor wanted to. So one day in primary school, the teachers made us all play football. Since I didn't know how to play, I decided to just stand awkwardly near the goal and admire the scenery for the whole game. At one point I became so absorbed in doing absolutely nothing that I pretty much blocked out the sound of everyone else's voices, so I had no idea how the game was going. Towards the end of the game, I was getting rather tired and was basically half asleep when suddenly this fucking incredible pain hits my back. I fall over and I literally have no idea what just happened when suddenly some of the kids on my team went over to me and started cheering and saying, "Yeah, egg. Good job." I just kinda stood there for a moment before realizing what had just happened. Apparently I had just accidentally blocked the opposition's winning goal by just standing there and doing absolutely nothing. Too long didn't read. If you want to accomplish your dreams and be praised, all you have to do is absolutely nothing. Kind of like the people that make videos like these, low effort, high return. My husband, then boyfriend, and I were driving to his place. He had one of those cars where the front seat had one combined long seat up front. I had moved over to sit right next to him, and he had his arm wrapped around me. At one point, I glanced over to my right and there was a van full of clowns. They were miming making out at us. Like 3 clowns in their front seat. They pulled away laughing. I like to walk quickly, but one day I encountered somebody ahead of me whose walking pace matched mine, possibly even beat it. So I went faster. I strained my ankles, my arms began to swing wildly, but I did it. I eventually overtook her. To assert my walking speed dominance in the most futile way possible, I didn't duck or avoid any of the low-hanging branches that were ahead of me. I plowed straight through them face first, without flinching. I kept my uncomfortably fast swinging arm walk run up until I was sure I was out of sight again. Nobody beats my walking pace. Nobody. Wait, what the fuck is that 3 clicks Philip? I love his videos. Weird to see him answering a question on AskReddit. You guys should seriously check out his channel. Link in the description. Got electrocuted my first day of high school. I was in a jazz band class at Met before first period. Awkward teenage me new to high school and not great at bass guitar. Electric guitarist asks me to hold his guitar while he grabs some sheet music. I hold my bass in my left hand while grabbing his guitar with my right. The building we were playing in was built sometime in the 60s, and I guess it had some sort of faulty wiring. The next few things happened probably within 2 or 3 seconds. I instantly felt a weird sensation through my arms and chest, and my arms were visibly shaking. I remember trying to let go of the guitars right away, but my hands only gripped harder. Electrical stimulation caused all my arm muscles to contract at once. I remember hearing loud feedback from both amps, and when I let out a sort of yelp it sounded like a loud, distorted version of my voice coming from the amps. Everyone else just heard the feedback. I passed out, briefly saw some popping blue lights, and woke up on the floor with blood all over my face and in my ear. Apparently what everyone else saw was me vibrate and faint into my amp and onto the floor. My band director, late 50s, apparently moved like lightning to unplug the amp and probably saved my life. When I woke up I noticed the blood in my ear first and my first thought was that I had some sort of inner ear damage. It turned out I just smacked my face on the knobs of the amp on my way down. I tried to sit up, but my teacher told me to stay still until the ambulance arrived. Then I noticed all my classmates and sister, same class, looking pale and staring at me. The nurse came in and let me sit in a chair. I was holding a towel to my face when my mom burst into the room. Apparently my sister had called her, and her mom instincts took over. She U-turned back toward the school, drove across some part of a lawn, and made it there before the ambulance. She insisted on driving me to the hospital, where I got some face stitches and did some tests, but otherwise ended up fine. Really the worst part about the experience was not getting any superpowers. The whole band wrote a get well card full of puns about being shocked to hear the story. Also, both guitars were miraculously undamaged. I accidentally stole a car. I had just gotten off work. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and I got barely any sleep. I walked out and got into my car, started it up, and started driving home. I didn't realize something was wrong until I couldn't find my aux cord, and then I started realizing that there were things in the car that were not mine, like the child seat in the back. I was an 18-year-old with no kids. I flip a U-turn and bust ass back to work to hopefully get the car back before its owner notices it's gone. I didn't. Cops were there, and I was very quickly arrested. Owner dropped charges only after 3 things were done. 1. I showed my keys unlocked and started her car, then pointed to my car which was the same model, color, and year. 2. One of my co-workers vouched for the fact that the customer parked in the spot I almost always parked in. 3. Camera footage was pulled for the past 9 days I had work showing that 7 of those days I parked in that spot and the other 2 I parked close to it. Edit. Y'all, the cops were doing their job and were polite about it because I cooperated. and the owner was right to be angry. I was a punk ass kid who in her eyes had just stolen her car, or at least took it out for a joyride. The owner was a single mother, and wasting any of her gas cold meant bad things. Please stop saying they were assholes. Once, when I was 8 years old, I was running through the forest. Suddenly I got pulled back by something. I didn't know what, but it didn't hurt. I called for my dad. When he came, he gasped and said that I shouldn't move. He then proceeded to remove a fishing hook that was in my skin right next to my eye. 1 more millimeter to the left and I would have been blind with one eye for the rest of my life. Sounds like you guys almost stumbled upon a pot farm. A lot of guerrilla growers set up fishing hook traps.